talked about was raising overall volume, excuse me, in the chambers. And we have these chairs on the side of the room, spatial configurations to enhance lip reading orientations and opportunities, and that's something, spatial changes and so forth, configuration, something we can talk about further. But I did want to just go through a quick review of what we have, and we're going. So did anybody want any repeats on the different systems or the specifics of the particular technologies?
What is the acronym TFOIL?
TFOIL is, actually, I didn't write that down. Okay. That's a great question. That's a great question.
I think that's probably supposed to say T-coil, not TFOIL.
Oh, I probably heard it wrong because I don't hear consonants.
Yeah.
That's why I'm interested in this subject.
There is a system called a T-coil, and if there's a T-coil, you can build an auditorium or a building or a room with a T-coil in it. If you have a T-coil in it and the person has the ability on their hearing aids to put it into T-coil mode, then the T-coil is supposed to stream the sound directly into the hearing aids. And what Craig explained to me when I talked to him is that the whole building here, many places don't have it because it's expensive, and actually right now there's something that's replaced it in some corners. But what Craig explained to me is that when I wear, so this device, instead of plugging it into a headphone, if I plug it into this neck loop, it creates, if this is plugged in, it creates its own T-coil system within this room. So that's what that's about.
Exactly, yes.
And I had mentioned to him, and I don't have details, I can put him in touch with people who do, but T-coils, because they were so expensive, they've come down. They started out like $10,000 and some. There are a few churches and a few theaters that have them, but they never really caught on big. There's now something called the AuraCast, which is much less expensive, which you also need to have hearing aids that are new enough that they have the program. Mine aren't. Mine are 2 years old. They don't have the program. Next pair will have AuraCast. Then they'll invent something else. But if you have that program on your hearing aids, then it works similarly. You can just tune into it and it'll stream it right to your ear.
Okay, thank you. That's good. And you're right, the information, that's why I noticed when you had the loop and I made that association. But thank you for correcting the consonant because I really screwed that one up.
It stands for telecoil.
But the information's
like
the same. I just messed up the consonant. So I'm sorry, what were you saying?
It says it stands for telecoil. It's like a small antenna.
Telecoil, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I just want to say, I'll take this opportunity to say that if you were the person who got them to rearrange the room because you talked to Greg, thank you, thank you, thank you. I don't know who did that.
I'm sorry, I can't take credit, but
I mean, I've been asking for years, I've been complaining for years that just like at the school deliberative session, the people who come to the podium, their backs are to they put these chairs in. A couple weeks ago, there was a town council meeting that was very, very crowded, and I didn't know if they put extra chairs in just because it was so crowded. But I sat there, I could see the speaker's face, it made a difference. And I told them afterwards, don't take them away. And so they're still here, hallelujah. I don't know.
So
well, the last, excuse me, go ahead, Todd.
That's just where it came from, and because you happened to sit there and discover that, I asked Craig to leave the room set up like this, so that's why it's like this.
Wonderful.
Nice.
And I think, if I recall correctly, when Paul Rasmussen happened to be here at the last meeting, I think you remember he walked around a bit and said, well, if you position yourself here and if you do this. And so what's great is it all came together and there are the chairs. But no, I can't take credit for that. Okay. Craig actually showed me the chairs were here when I came to have my conversation with him and, and go around and look at everything. So right, we've got that, and that's an easy thing. The spatial configuration is an easy thing to continue to improve upon and experiment and trial and error, right? So Great. So we good with this one? Okay. So this is some general information about oral disabilities, and as we've discussed, they're not uniform. Many different experiences that people have, not dichotomous like you hear, you don't hear. Very nuanced, extremely nuanced. Folks can be, who are differently disabled, differently hearing disabled, are also differently abled. An example, I have a colleague who is deaf from birth. He can lip read on Zoom and Teams meetings, which I find phenomenal. I can do it if I'm one-on-one, but not in a group meeting. So that's an example. On to the next line, adaptive coping differences with respect to hearing absence versus hearing loss versus impairment. They're all different kinds of hearing disabilities, and how people or why people have them, whether they're congenital or acquired, gradual versus sudden. All of these things will play into how people experience sound, hearing, and not. Acoustic shock causes loss differences. I have another colleague friend who lost his hearing as a teenager to an IRA bombing in England. And people get very frustrated with him. He has hearing aids, and they say, well, why doesn't he update his hearing aids? He doesn't hear, and what, he has the aids. And I try to explain to them that when there's damage, the operative word in hearing aid is aid. You have to have the apparatus, the anatomical apparatus, and so forth. So that's something that a lot of folks don't understand, that you can't just turn it up.
Yeah, some people, I have found it helpful to explain to people that if you need glasses, they can correct your vision to 20/20 in most cases with glasses. That never happens with hearing aids. It doesn't matter what equipment you have. They can improve your hearing, but it's probably about 60% at best. It's never going to be like with glasses where you can bring it to what would be considered normal. And most people don't understand that.
That's actually a really good way, I think, to describe it. That's a very simple way and something that people can understand. So to create that comparison and that contrast is very helpful.
Yep.
Excuse me.
Can I just ask a question about that?
Sure.
Not that, I don't know, but is this something that is ultimately possible to correct hearing to such a degree, a higher degree than 60%, or have we hit peak? I can't imagine we've hit peak technology.
Technology is always changing and improving, but at this moment, that's
okay.
about what it is. I don't know how exact the 60% was. That was what my ENT told me, but yeah. One hopes it will get better and better and better.
But that's a number. That percentage is a number and a concept associated with a general sense of hearing. That doesn't account for discrimination and everything else. So yeah, we've got a ways to go. We really do. Hard of hearing folks, deaf folks. It is a very broad range. So on this slide, which says varying needs can defy our understanding, which is perfect. We just led right into that, and our technologies. So here are just a few points of information. I wrote this as folks in a void among hearing assistance devices, lip reading, etc. not one size fits all. Some folks don't fit any of those. Volume increase is not a fix. I put that in there because when the review slide of the technologies and accommodations, I know we talked about that when Craig was here. Volume can actually make it more difficult for people with certain types of hearing loss to discriminate. Sound can actually create discomfort or be debilitating, as I put there on the slide, for some folks. So that, like many things, is not a fix and probably generally not recommended. We're talking about volume and, raising the volume of the entire system in a room. DCAT feedback, this was something that I talked with Craig about, obviously. He told me it's common for attendees to opt out of using devices even if they're offered. And what that speaks to is again, that range, that variety, not one size fits all. What's available may not work for some people, could make them worse, could be difficult. They prefer to adapt. He told me it's very common to see folks, he'll ask, would you like a hearing device? And somebody will say no, and he'll see them, leaning in, this kind of thing, or whatever it is they find works for them, or at least works best for them given what we have to offer.
Part of that too is that you can't rely on this. So I've tried over the years, and I met with Greg a bunch of months ago, and he told me how to use the thing that's on the wall there, and then I came to a meeting and it didn't work, and I tried it again and it didn't work. Oh, it turned out I hadn't put this on or that on, and then I tried again and so it's broken right now. So half the time, if not more, not just here but other places, you ask for a device and the devices don't work. I once tried to use a device at the temple. They had things like this. I went through 6 of them. I took 6 of them up to my seat and tried. None of them worked. So they need batteries that are, you have to have somebody there who's checking it, that they work, that the batteries are fresh, et cetera, et cetera. So I think some people with hearing issues, just after a while, it's like, I give up. It's just too difficult. I mean, I missed most of Dr. Schaap's talk while he was running around trying to get the device that worked. So I think that's part of it, and part of it is also stigma. And many people don't want to get a device and sit in a room where they have headphones on because that says to everyone they can't hear. Some people don't mind that, and some people do.
And some people can't wear headphones.
Right.
Because of however their issues are, and however they hear or don't hear, or yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's true. There is so much variety. Excuse me. Hence the bottom lines. Readables. Closed captioning, subtitles, transcription are the only forms of accessibility tech that approximate universality among hard of hearing and the deaf community who hear with our eyes. And, I remember our last meeting, we spent a lot of time talking about devices and accommodations for the hard of hearing. We did not talk about deaf. You did mention ASL, if I recall, and ASL unfortunately also is not universal because it requires fluency.
Yeah.
So and it's a good thing. That doesn't mean it isn't. But if we want to approach anything that is universal, that's completely inclusive, as you mentioned a few minutes ago before I started the PowerPoint. If we truly want to accommodate all concerned with respect to the hearing and non-hearing world, readables are the bottom line. So that the second line, I spoke with Craig about this. The DCAT budget request for next year could include another flat panel dedicated for closed captioning, which would not have the latency. The live stream, there's a latency issue. And you know that because you've tried to use it. The dedicated panel would have closed captioning without latency. That's a big factor. So Craig is going to research what might be available, what the costs associated would be, and and we'll go from there in terms of looking at that as a potential further option.
That would be in here somewhere, like up.
Right, it would be the way he described it to me, it would be a dedicated panel. So it wouldn't take over, right? It wouldn't usurp what's here for the meetings in a general sense. But would be a dedicated.
So is that, I've asked before, because during like town council, planning board meetings, it's on Zoom, but they don't have captions on. I mean, at home, if I watch from home, I can put captions on. If I'm in the room and I'd like the extra help of reading, Craig said they can't do that. And is that because they need it? Like, why can't they do that? At Zoom, they have captioning. I don't get it. It might have had something to do with the view, but I don't get it.
Well,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Richard.
I think the tech is different for these screens. It's not Zoom.
So even if we're watching a Zoom meeting, the tech to broadcast?
If it's live, we can't do it. It's not set up to do that.
But right now, I'm attending this meeting on Zoom, and I have closed captioning on. I asked Gwen I had to write her twice to first turn it on, and then it was said it was on, but it wasn't showing up. And what she said to me when I was downstairs was that she needed to turn the audio on the Zoom in order for the captioning to work. So I don't know what she did. She turned the audio on. We're not hearing it. It's fine.
Well, but this is not Zoom, isn't it? I mean, we weren't seeing captions before the PowerPoint, were we? I don't think we were.
No, but we're not. You're saying, because right
The
now.
monitor's in this room, is what I'm saying.
But they're not now Zoom, but if I come to a planning board meeting, they have the meeting, or town council, the meeting is Zoomed, and they have the Zoom meeting on the screen.
Okay.
But they don't caption it, but I don't know why.
My understanding is the problem is latency. Even though when you're on Zoom, and I'm on Zoom, right, and we're availing ourselves of the captions. But because of whatever the systems are here and however that plays out, a panel dedicated
Right.
for the use of closed captioning is what is needed to accomplish that.
Okay.
And that was
in
missing
here.
from my explanation.
I'm all for that and all for Craig putting it in the budget, and maybe it'll get approved. But in the meantime, better this than nothing. So right now I'm looking, and there is a little bit of delay. When I speak, the words don't show up the minute I speak them, but they show up seconds later. That's much better for me than if they weren't there at all.
Okay.
So
Yes.
just something to address in the meantime, or if
Yes.
if the request in the budget is not approved, because I know things are very tight.
But he did explain that the best route would be a dedicated
dedicated
panel.
panel,
Yes.
Okay.
Then, of course, they have to find where they can put it and have the font big enough that people can read it from across the room.
That's part of it, yes.
So what can we do? What can we do? What we can do for now? Because Craig is going to do some research. He's going to make a budget request. We can talk with him more about that. But here are some things that we can do, survey and canvass. So the day after our last meeting, I called Todd and I said, I'm thinking, it'd be great to at least try to put some metrics and maybe draw some of those folks that where Julian was here and said, well, there are people who maybe they're shy or they don't want to say anything or what have you, or they don't know. So that's why I reached out to Todd and said, can we do something maybe in the Friday updates? So he and I talked, and I put a few lines together, and I wrote up the questions, and I wrote them up with the intention of addressing some of the things that we had talked about, and getting the information in a concise yet specific way that would help us better understand what we do as well as what we don't need and how to go about it. So we did that, and you all have seen the results, and we got updated results. There were, a couple more second go-around. We ran it for 2 weeks, correct?
Yeah, we went from 5 to 7.
Yes, and I actually found it enlightening. I found the results interesting. It was great for us to be able to really see where the weaknesses were, what people are looking for, where the overlaps are. So we've done that. Now the question obviously is we have to find out what would costs be for the dedicated panel with the closed captioning. How I wrote this here, will they come if we recommend build, rebuild, further invest? And so that's something that we need to think about too once we have more information about that additional technology and how it would serve. We can also maximize the existing technologies and information that we do have, make folks aware of the options, make them aware of opportunities, and encourage engagement. So simple thing that Craig and I talked about, the sign on the wall. There are instructions on that sign. Things as simple as encouraging people, take a photo of that with your phone so that you can refer to it, present and future. We could perhaps make a printout of instructions, like a laminated thing, whatever, that folks could pick up. These are small ways of showing people opportunities, things that they can do, and again, encouraging engagement is really a big part of that. Getting the information out, and encouraging people to ask and come forward, because as you'll see in the next line, heed DCAT feedback and limitations. Outreach, awareness, mutual benefits. Getting help is a two-way street. It really is. We can't read minds. We can try to think about what needs may be, but it is a two-way street. And one thing that, Craig mentioned to me, which I thought was quite important, is that commonly folks won't ask early enough for assistance with the devices. The staff is very happy to help, but they need some lead time because they've got a meeting going on and everything else that's happening. So, and not every user of the device is going to adapt at the same rate, right? So that's something, that's an important piece of information that we can share. Yes?
So in relation to that, I think it might be a good idea to list on every meeting agenda, I'm throwing this out as an idea, that if there is a need for assistance, hearing assistance, audio assistance, that people come maybe 5 or 10 minutes early to a meeting, and that somebody is here that can assist or at least guide. So having worked at DCAT for many years, that's possible, just so long as it's not, right before the meeting starts. Because, I have, the person working down there has obligations and needs to be ready to flip switches and so forth. So, but, you come 10 minutes early, that can happen. And it might be worthwhile also to make an announcement, especially at a very full meeting, a full house, just before the fact, saying, does anyone need any audio assistance? If so, or even visual assistance, whatever. If there's any need that anyone has, please speak up now before we start the meeting. That seems to be just sort of a simple thing that could just be included on an agenda item, just in standard, like the logo, it's there all the time.
Right, like a boilerplate kind of thing.
Yeah.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
then to be able to, it'd be easy, as long as there are not 10 people who need things, and you might have to delay the start of a meeting if there are that many people or something. But, to make sure that somebody knowing the tech is here and can, be able to help out.
And to your point, Richard, about 10 people needing, according to Craig, the numbers have never been at that level. And they're never run out of, well, you know this because you
Yeah.
never run out of devices. There are more devices than there are takers. So,
But, in relation to that, being a past church priest, you can't say that you're not going to have assistance for those in wheelchairs, ramps, if you don't have any in your congregation who use wheelchairs, because somebody may show up the very next day who needs one. So you need to be on the ball and one step ahead in this situation. So
Exactly.
it doesn't matter. The numbers really don't matter. You just need to be
yes,
welcoming.
yes, yes. And I think that was what Craig meant. His intention was that we do have enough to go around, and that's a good thing. That is how we want it. So, excuse me. So these are some things that we can do for now. This is obviously not this is not a list. It's not even a list, let alone an exhaustive list. But it's these are some things that we can think about and think creatively.
Yeah.
The way we will about configuration and orientation of the room. So now here's the big and with something that I have a little fun with. And this is, I called this the Riot Act crowd control. This is something also that Craig and I spoke about. This ambient sound. And ambient sound is indeed a major factor with respect to people with oral disabilities. It affects acoustics, their ability to filter, word discriminate. This is very interesting. Lip reading is compromised by ambient sound and commotion. I know that well. I've tried to explain to people I can't lip read in an environment where there's a lot going on. And a kind of a simple way of looking at that, sort of back to Deborah's, the eyesight versus the hearing correction. Why are libraries quiet? So that people can concentrate on their reading. Well, lip reading is reading. So, yeah, but that, I know when I tell this to people, there's a bit of an epiphany there. that it's not something one would ordinarily think about, and we don't categorize lip reading in our minds the way we do, text reading. So that's a way that I like to explain it, because when I do, I've got nodding heads, just as I'm seeing here now. So that's an important fact. And a piece of feedback I got from Craig is that the issue of ambient sound is a predominant complaint. He said he doesn't get a lot of complaints, but that is the one that he hears commonly. So this is an opportunity also, just to, when there are a number of people in here, there's going to be a din, right? There's the din, even if people are just, maybe talking amongst themselves or what have you. And that's something that we can easily address and make known, just the way I gave you the library analogy now, is to make people aware that kind of all that background sound makes it much more difficult for people with oral disabilities to hear. So, but I want to have a little fun with this, and that's why I called it the Riot Act and crowd control. So maybe not quite on that level, but a good way to get the idea across.
Thank you, Leslie.
Yes.
It's wonderful.
Thank you
So,
much.
and it's, what I put at the bottom here is right, raise awareness and just moderate attendees, in a really nice, polite, and friendly way. But it's very easy for ambient sound and commotion to build up without people realizing it, because if they don't have those disabilities, it's normal to them.
So I was checking, because I remember seeing on some written materials something that says if you need hearing assistance, there are devices available, and I think it says, please try to let us know 48 hours in advance, but I can't find where I found that. I've seen it many, many times through the years. But I just checked on the public hearing notices and the agendas for the town council and planning board, and they have information at the bottom about Zoom. We try to provide Zoom. We can't guarantee it. If you want to Zoom, you have to register. So there could very easily be another, short paragraph or a couple of sentences there, reminding people if they need assisted devices that they're here, or again, if you have too much stuff that repeats every week, people ignore it. But I think for me a big part is not just the ambient noise, which usually, for me that's not usually, it's a problem like in restaurants and stuff. At the town council meetings and planning board, it's not been something I've been focused on. But people, if I had a magic wand, it'd make everyone aware that if you're talking like this, it's really hard to hear you. And if you have facial hair, it's sometimes hard. And can you enunciate and keep things away, minimize those distractions and impediments? I think I was here for some meeting where there was I almost interrupted the person on the council to say, could you please put your hand down so I can understand you, because the whole mouth was covered.
Yeah, I don't realize it. And to your point about the ambient sound, the individuals for whom that's the most difficult are the ones who do not benefit from the devices that work for others.
Yeah.
Because they're not in that enclosed environment, or where they're plugged or they're covered. So they're making do in other ways because they're not candidates for the devices.
But I would think for those people, for anyone who's lip reading, and for hearing, but certainly for lip reading, it helps if you can see the person's face. So if we're trying to raise awareness to help people realize when they're sitting at these chairs, they should be close to the mic. When they're up there, it helps if they adjust the mic one meeting I got up and adjusted the mic because the person was particularly short or tall. To also realize that when you turn away, if I'm sitting at a council meeting and I start talking like this, then I can't hear it.
Right.
There was one guest who came to, I don't know, I think it was a town council meeting, and it was a few months ago, who has normal hearing. And her experience being out there was that when the counselors started to have their own, discussions, it was like they were just talking to each other. They weren't, when they do their roundtable, they still have to remember there are people out there watching and try to be aware of the things we're talking about.
Okay.
It's a lot of
Those
awareness.
and those individual behaviors are a bit more challenging, and they're touchy. But just off that subject for a moment, you mentioned about registering for Zoom. That triggered a recall in my mind. That was something Craig and I talked about. That's the benefit of the dedicated panel. I walk into a meeting, I remember when, just the beginning of this meeting, you mentioned that you had to register and get on the Zoom. The dedicated panel it's right there. It's readily available. So that's an important thing for us to consider going forward, when we look further at this
I
issue.
agree with you. Individual behaviors are very hard to change, and some people may be touchy, but it might help if the chair of the committee that's meeting, particularly if there are a lot of people here, if they just said at the beginning of the meeting, I want to remind everyone that we've got people here or maybe on Zoom with hearing issues. Please make an effort to enunciate, speak into your mic, and not cover your mouth. One sentence. And it's
Actually, I think we should go one step further. That's what I was going to say, is that as an outcome of this, I think maybe we should have a reminder. I don't know what's going to come of the closed captioning, because I'm kind of excited about the panel, because I think that would be helpful for everyone, even with people of a certain age. I mean, I use closed captioning now, even just listening, watching Netflix, because so I think it will help everyone. I don't think we need to worry about exactly how many people respond to a survey or something. I think we should maybe just increase accessibility for all of us. But could we, in addition to if we get the panel, that's great, but could we recommend to at least maybe the town council or the planning board or whoever, like the public comes to, that before a meeting, we read the land acknowledgement, they just have that reminder, so it's not just a one-time deal, it's kind of like every time, just to remind people to speak into the microphone and to decrease the ambient noise, and that there is closed captioning available. Those three things, I don't know.
Exactly. You just spoke to this slide here.
Right.
Things that we can do. And again, this is just suggesting there are things we can do, and we can think creatively like you are now.
But should we recommend that to the town council and the planning board?
We can, and maybe that's a good idea.
I don't know. That would be my suggestion. And I want to thank you very much for the excellent PowerPoint.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're welcome.
Yeah,
Todd
thank you.
has
Glad I didn't
something-
put you to sleep or torture you.
Do you have something
Thank you.
to add, or?
I did just want to note that we do generally include language on the posted agendas that have to do with communication aids. So for example, with today's agenda for our meeting, at the very bottom, it says communication aids. Please provide the town 48 hours notice if special communication aids are needed. And the idea is that the person would contact us, we put them in touch with Craig. Craig could talk to the person about what the issue is and try to, in some cases, even have them come up and practice so that they're ready to go. So that's on here. It's not always in the same spot. Here it's at the bottom of the agenda, sort of by itself, and on a planning board agenda. I'm looking at a recent agenda. At the very bottom, it says other information, and there are 8 things, public hearings and public comments, submission of comments in writing, other information, contacting us, recommended actions, what that means for the public, to when the next meeting is, and then communication aids.
Okay.
So it's there. On the council agenda, it's actually at the top of the agenda that says the same topic. But in terms of having like a script for the chair to read, I think it would be helpful if the committee could put together the narrative, because it's hard for a chair, like they've got a lot in their mind, they're coming from their day. You know, at the last council meeting, we had a room full of people with sidearms, you know, and it's scary and it's easy for a chair to get kind of thrown off, and they're trying to plan the meeting and predict what's happening, and there are 1,000 things happening. So having just like the script.
That's what I would suggest.
Yeah,
that
if we could make it,
we make
and
the
then
recommendation to them.
they could just read it.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Great. Okay.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Thank you.
Just come up with some concise language that, would accomplish that, I think.
So I'm going to end this discussion, but I need to ask the to-do. Shall we all do that together, or does one or two of you want to take that on to come up with a...
Yeah. Leslie, you want to come up with
Well, we
something?
can work on it, sure,
Okay.
yeah.
Should we wait until we get the information from Craig about did he give a timeline as to when he was going to have that information?
I didn't hear it. Might be a good idea, or we could get
What-
something ready just in the meantime.
Which information?
I mean, on a panel?
Yeah.
But that, I thought he was asking it in the next budget cycle. I don't think
Yes,
we're going to
for
see
the-
that for
Okay,
a long
yes.
time.
Okay, okay, we can
Budget
separate them.
request.
Yeah.
Okay. How about if Leslie and Deborah primarily, and I can jump in and help if you'd like, or Janet or anyone can, but
Well, we can put something together and then bring it back to
Okay.
the commission, and y'all can look at
Great.
it and then decide if you have any additions or subtractions or
Right.
modifications.
okay,
And-
let's do
and
that.
If
Okay.
from a right to know point of view, if we do that, could we then just email it? And if everyone says, yes, this is great, go ahead, rather than having to wait till our next meeting? Or would you prefer that we bring it to a meeting and vote on it?
We can't deliberate on.
Exactly.
can't.
Yeah.
It's the
so
right to know
It'd be better for
situation.
one of you or two of you to work on it on your own and then bring it to the next meeting, or email it to the group in advance of the next meeting, and then we can talk about it at the next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, we could do that.
Okay, I'd like to move on. It's already almost 5:45, and
These
I
two
wanna-
agenda items are very quick.
the next two? Mm-hmm. All right, let's jump into them.
Okay, unless you wanted to mix it up somehow?
No,
Okay.
I'm eager to not drag the meeting out, so.
Gotcha. Okay, I'll talk really quickly.
Agenda number 5 is discussion of Indigenous Peoples' Day in collaboration with the Durham Library. Janet, you're up.
Yes, well, Deborah Jarvis from the library offered us to, she said they have not started planning yet for Indigenous Peoples' Day. And if we have any ideas, they'd love to hear them. That's basically it. So I didn't know if this group had any ideas, and maybe it could be the only idea I could think of is like something hands-on, like cooking or some food, something to do with food or crops or something. I'm not really sure. That's the only thing I could think of. So I'm anxious to see if anybody else has any ideas.
So, is there a deadline for her needing to know?
Well, when is Indigenous Peoples' Day?
October?
Yeah. So
So, well, certainly by October, but I'm wondering
if
if
there's a speaker, I think her
Yeah.
idea was to get somebody
lined up.
lined up.
Okay. Let's think about that. I'm happy to work on that. So maybe I could go to the library and have a conversation with her and see what they've done in the past and what their thoughts might be.
I can tell you what we've done because we've done it together.
Right, but,
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we had a storyteller
Yeah.
a couple of years ago. We had, last year, we had the another speaker who did a Zoom,
Okay.
forget his name, but so the idea of, she wanted to know if this group had any ideas. So
you want
if
us
the
to
answer is
think about
no, or you can think about it if you don't.
I think we need to think about it.
Yeah.
And then maybe we talk about some of those ideas at our next meeting.
Yes, let's do that. Because I just, not to be third grade teacher about it, but I did ask at the last meeting the same question. So
Okay.
if we could, next time, if people could come back if they have the ideas, that would be great for Indigenous People Day.
That's not third grade, that's kindergarten through 12th grade.
Okay, discussion on collaboration with other human rights organizations in the state. I'll just say you forwarded me the communication you had with
Yes,
Keene. I thought that was great. I thought I'd wait till this meeting to
Right.
hear more.
So Keene, the Human Rights Commission in Keene, first of all, their statement, I'm just going to read it, that they do at the beginning is, in our efforts to create a more equal and just society, we move forward with the firm intention to value the voices, opinions, and experiences of all people. We choose to proceed with the awareness and humility that the statements and decisions we make will have a different impact for those with different life experiences. So they have different committees for Keene, just to give you an idea of what their commission is. Their committees include Juneteenth committee. It's a larger commission. I think there's 12 people. There's several alternates. There's quite a few people. It's a larger group than this, but they have committees for Juneteenth, Black History Month, MLK Day, Pride Committee. They have a Keene International Festival Committee and a Native American Heritage Committee. They celebrate the lives of Martin Luther King, and one of their, somebody who's from Keene named Jonathan Daniels.
He was
are you
a
familiar
martyr,
with him?
basically.
Episcopal.
Right.
But
He gave his life in the civil rights.
For civil rights, yeah, and he's from Keene.
Right.
So that's kind of interesting. Promote the principles of social justice, nonviolence, equity. I won't go through all this, but that's what this committee does. So I'm wondering if that is, they were wondering if I was wondering if we wanted to have a Zoom with them or. Okay, that's it.
I'm open for comments. I think that'd be a great idea. And why don't we continue to reach out to other groups then as well? Maybe you could get back to, what's her name? Alyssa. And maybe if we have a next date for our meeting, we could try to set something up
During
during our meeting.
sure.
Okay. Thank you. Agenda item number 7, discussion of ICE and federal agents. Is there anything we need to review, talk about? I'm going to suggest we punt that agenda item to the next meeting if we need to. Is that okay with everyone?
Yes.
Okay, approval of minutes. Kathy, you're up.
Where are we with minutes? So first, my apologies for the meeting minutes that come in pages and pages and pages. I'm transcribing and I get confusion. I don't know like the continuum of detail. So you've just seen two extremes. The ones I sent yesterday were sparse. I had a post-meeting conversation last time with Deborah and Richard, and so I tried AI, and they came up so crystal clear, and I have feedback that we need to include the vote or the, what do you call it?
Motions.
The motions, and so I'll add in more. So I'm wondering if I could bring or send along, and my intention is to be faster with meeting minutes. If I don't do them in the next couple days, it might as well be the next few weeks when they keep popping up on my desktop and I'm like, no. Anyway, if you don't mind, for the next meeting, I'll fix the minutes that read like a novel, and I'll fluff up the minutes that read like a fortune cookie and find a happy medium with the information we need.
Great.
That'd be great. And so there are 3 sets of meetings now.
Yes, there will be 3 sets.
So we'll make sure
December
that
12th.
we do them all.
Yes,
next
I'll
time.
bring all. December 12th, February, blah, blah, and March 18th.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you, Kathy, for all your work.
Well, and if anybody, I'm happy to do minutes and try to get it right, but if anybody is like, I'll save that person and you want to do minutes, just let me know. But otherwise, I'm happy to muck about and figure out a sweet spot.
Great.
So,
All right. Is there any other business? Leslie?
Just very quickly, due to the lapse in funding associated with the Department of Homeland Security, I don't know if there are folks in our community who work for DHS and have experienced furlough, or I don't know. I'm just thinking about this. Have it, experienced furlough or having any types of difficulties or what have you. I didn't know if that's something that we wanted to reach out and find out if any of our friends and neighbors need any assistance. It's just an idea, thought that popped into my head, given the situation, and it's not the furloughs and folks working without pay. It's not uniform. There's a lot of a variety, and that's changing. Some people are back on the jobs, and then others are being furloughed and so forth. So it's just something that occurred to me, and I didn't know if we wanted to reach out. I have no way of knowing who may or may not be in our community that works for a DHS agency, but there are many agencies within DHS, and it's just something I was thinking about.
Okay.
Is that something that you could mention in the Friday updates, that, because there's some town, there's not a social worker associated with the town, but isn't there some fund or place to go to if you need help, like financial help or resources?
Yes.
So maybe putting a note in the Friday updates that we're aware that there may be people who are working without getting paid or facing temporary layoffs due to the shutdown, and remind them what resources exist.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you.
There's one there's a thing coming up, town hall in Durham, on the Community Church of Durham, on March 25th at 6 p.m. On House Bill 1793,
That's
prohibiting the
is that
regulation of firearms.
Yeah, I was debating whether to say something about that. Sort of asking, like, is that something as a commission that, we have, on the one hand, we have the amendment saying you have a right to bear arms, and then we have human
Right.
rights, like to be
Exactly.
safe and not.
Yeah, I was just saying informationally, there's a town hall on it, on this very,
So it's a town hall at the community church next
Yes.
Wednesday?
on March 25th, which is next week.
It's next Wednesday.
In 7 minutes will be 1 week from now.
Can you send us that information, or?
Sure.
I think you've announced it. So if we can go, or I don't know, is there anything we need to do? Or do you think we
It
need
was
to-
totally
Yeah.
informational.
Yeah,
Point of information. Okay.
I've got a little more information about that. If you'd like, I could read the announcement about it, if that's helpful. Would that be helpful?
Sure.
So it says, Moms Demand Action, a gun violence prevention advocacy group in New Hampshire. They are partnering with Gun Sense New Hampshire, a gun violence prevention program coalition in New Hampshire, to help inform parents, students, staff, and members of the community about House Bill 1793, a bill that would allow firearms on campus without restrictions. We believe this is a dangerous bill, but we think members of college communities should know about it and make their own decision about the bill before it becomes law. To that end, we're looking to conduct town halls and invite the community, as well as local law enforcement and elected officials, to discuss the bill. And they have invited Rainey Kelly, our police chief, who's going to attend, and members of the town council to attend. We're holding a town hall in Durham at the community church on Wednesday, March 25th at 6 p.m. So that's the info. And my understanding is that this group or a sister organization is doing a similar forum in the near future in Plymouth, New Hampshire, and in Keene, New Hampshire as well. All three are core campuses of the University System of New Hampshire.
Great, okay.
And I had a couple other announcements when you're ready.
I think that's an important issue, obviously, especially for Durham, and so it behooves us, or at least some of us, to attend.
I'll try to,
I plan to be there.
yeah, try to go. I'm not sure I can, but I'll try.
Okay.
I also read, for what it's worth, I read something this morning that the UNH Student Senate did a poll, and something like 83% of the UNH students oppose this bill, and numbers of them are saying they will not enroll if the bill passes. So it ripples out. If there's a huge drop in enrollment because guns are allowed, that's going to affect the university, but that's also going to affect the town and the people who have rental units. It'll be very big.
Good point. Other announcements?
Yeah, two others. One is that UNH just announced that Nadine Petty, who's the university's chief diversity officer, who has appeared here, we've spoken with her a few times over the years, will be leaving the university at the end of the academic year. And this is, as I understand it, part of a cost-cutting effort. And I think in response to the state's expressed concern about DEI measures. And the third is related to that, which is that the New Hampshire House last week passed a bill, House Bill 1788. The bill prohibits the state and political subdivisions from entering into or renewing any contract that includes diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI-related provisions, and requires contracts to be void if they contain such language. The bill opens municipalities up to potential lawsuits from citizens anywhere in the state over alleged DEI provisions, which will, this is from the New Hampshire Municipal Association, which would increase legal costs and related nuisance lawsuits for municipalities. So I believe the bill now heads to the Senate, so.
Yeah, it hasn't been passed yet, right?
No,
It just passed
right.
the House.
But to give you a sense of the mentality of the legislature, at least the House right now.
Do we need to, I mean, I guess, what's our, other than it's good to have this known and broadcast and shared, is there anything anyone can think of for what we can do other than showing up at any debate?
Vote.
Well, beyond voting, okay.
I mean, that's the crux of the bill.
Yeah, it's a bill, okay.
So, if you'd like, we could, when it crosses over to the Senate, we could write to the, whatever committee in the Senate this will go to, and encourage them to vote against it.
So maybe this could be something we discuss with with Keene, with the other human rights group. If we get in touch with the other groups from other university towns.
How fast is the bill going to move to the Senate?
It already had a House hearing, right? So it won't have a Senate hearing, or it will have a Senate hearing?
No, it had a House hearing and the House approved it. Now it crosses over to the Senate and it will be assigned to a Senate committee, and that Senate committee will hold a hearing.
They will hold a hearing.
Yeah.
I mean, we could
So there'll be
write
another
into that hearing. They
Yeah,
generally
you
don't
could.
have a lot of in-person
Right.
testimony, but, well,
What is the bill number?
1788, House Bill 1788.
Okay.
I wonder would we be prepared to write to write in as a commission? We can all, individually, we can all write in testimony. Would it carry more weight if we said the Human Rights Commission, here's, put the statement in and said it's from the Human Rights Commission?
I was thinking something like that.
Yeah.
But if we could do it in partnership, it would be even stronger.
You mean a partnership like with Keene?
Right.
Except we may not have time to meet with them, yeah.
Okay.
And I'm not sure the online testimony lends itself to that, but if we wrote something with them, we could just send it to the committee rather than going through the usual online way that you can testify.
Be nice to be able to discuss that issue before writing.
Yeah.
So I can look to see when the hearing will be in the Senate. I don't know right now.
Okay. Okay, let's wait for developments there and be prepared to take up that issue if we want to speak to it.
Yeah, it's been assigned to Senate Judiciary, but a hearing has not been established yet or scheduled, so we'll have to wait.
Just one question out of interest related to that. Todd, is this an issue that you have discussed, or is this of concern to other regional leaders of Keene and Plymouth and any other town that would be affected by this in a direct way?
I haven't reached out to anybody about it. I mean,
Okay.
we already received, if you remember, maybe 2 months ago, a query from, I think, the New Hampshire Department of Justice, where they were asking communities to certify that we had no contracts with DEI language in place. And we don't. So we did sign off on that.
Okay.
But so there may be some statutory scheme altogether in place, and this is just layering onto it. I just don't know. I'm sorry.
Okay. And could I ask the same question about the other issue?
The gun issue?
Yeah.
What's your question?
I'm just wondering if, because of the potential
Yes. Okay. So yes. So
influences.
have been in regular contact with Keene and Plymouth and Hanover about it. It really only affects Keene and Plymouth. Manchester has not really been responsive. But I know Keene and Plymouth are very concerned.
Okay.
So, and for the gun issue, we wrote, we will be attending the Senate hearing whenever it's held. It's before Senate Judiciary to oppose that bill.
Okay.
And UNH will as well. I believe the Student Senate will. So there wasn't a lot of attention to it on the House side. The UNH police chief, the then UNH police chief attended, but other than that, it was mostly the bill's sponsor, who is a UNH student and is a gun kind of advocate. And he brought a group of friends, supporters who were students, and it kind of sort of appeared to the committee that all the UNH students were supportive of this idea. And we now know through the survey that that's absolutely not the case. So I'm hopeful the Senate will be open to it. I know the Student Senate also has been in touch with the governor, and the governor has expressed concern about the bill. So our hope is the Senate kills it, but even if the Senate were to approve it, we're hopeful the governor would veto it. But we'll see.
Okay, thank you. It makes sense to know that before our committee
And
jumps
UNH
into
is
anything.
very concerned about it as well.
Yeah, obviously.
I'm not surprised, but it's strange to think that the state legislature could pass a law that says that any municipality cannot use any DEI language. And I wonder how that's even defined, because when you say DEI, people have a certain notion of what that means. But as we were talking earlier, part of inclusion is accessibility. That's protected by federal law. So, you can use the word inclusion or inclusivity, but you can't use it in conjunction with diversity and equity in the same sentence. Or I don't know how you parse all that stuff. It just seems Or whether people are doing workarounds to be able to say what they want, or they're just,
Well, doesn't diversity include everybody? And people with disabilities as well? I don't, so, but perhaps that's a good nuance we should bring up in our,
yeah, I mean, 'cause
Feedback to the center.
diversity can also mean people, you know, it seems like most people assume diversity is talking about racial diversity, and even within that, only certain racial groups, but diversity includes accessibility, it includes religion, it includes all these things that are protected by the Constitution. So I don't know how they can just pass a law like that.
I don't either, but we're not going to solve it.
No, we're not going to solve it
Today.
before now, before dinner, before we adjourn, absolutely. But I just wanted to remark,
Is there any other business?
setting a meeting for the, setting a date for the next meeting.
When would you like that to be?
May 7th? I don't know, I'm throwing out.
I might not be here then, but
Okay.
anytime after May 11th.
There's no pressing, is there any pressing business to do, on the to-do list that needs to be done sooner rather than later?
Only if we wanted to make a statement about the
For
bill.
this, yeah.
right, and we don't know when that hearing will be. That it could come up quickly, or it could be 2 months out. I don't know what their schedule is, I'm sorry. But
Could you call
yeah.
could you call like an ad hoc meeting? Once we find out the timing of that, so that we could come together and discuss it?
Is that?
I think it would be like an emergency meeting more than an ad hoc.
Well,
meeting or
kind of,
something.
yeah, but,
Extra
yeah, I
meeting.
don't know, I mean, yeah, just a thought,
Okay, we could.
yeah.
Why don't we, so I'm going to suggest we meet in 8 weeks,
May 14th?
May 14th. Does that work?
But Can we,
And then if we need to meet ahead of time, we can.
can we do it on a Wednesday instead of on a Thursday? On the 13th instead of
We
the
can do it on the
14th?
13th?
I'm not sure I can be here on the 13th, but I might be able to Zoom.
Is there any time that week that is better or worse for everybody?
Anytime after 3:30 is, any day.
Are you okay with,
it just depends on the day.
yeah? Deborah, what about you?
Well, other days would be better for me. I have a student Thursday afternoon, and her schedule is so impossible that if I try to reschedule her lesson, she's
can do
probably
the
not going to be
20th.
able to make it.
What about the 20th over the 13th?
I
For
can
you?
do the 20th, but I can't do the 13th, I don't think.
Okay, I could do the 20th. It's at 4:30.
Can you do the 20th at 4:30?
At the moment, I can.
If we put it on our
Aren't
calendar.
we first?
Well, it doesn't work that way, because
I know.
I'm involved with a lot of other organizations, and there are things that come up.
Sure.
But right now, it looks good.
So there's a possibility I can do the 13th, I don't have my schedule.
When will you know? Because we could schedule it for the 13th, and then if you let us know that you can't move it to the 20th, or we could schedule it for the 20th and move it back.
Okay, let's do this. I will wait to hear from you, Janet, and just email me as soon as you can. But let's hold both dates open with the idea that we will meet on the 20th or the 13th if Janet can make it on the 13th.
At 4:30 either day.
And we'll have our bat phones at the ready in case we have an emergency meeting coming up.
I would-
Yes.
Yes, everybody just keep your phones on
Yes,
24/7.
24/7. Yes.
Okay. And obviously, the sooner we find out all this, the better. And if we do meet ahead of this, to speak to really either of the issues, it behooves us to know a little bit about the issues beforehand and to really keep our conversations focused on the issue or the two issues. So we won't have any other business,
Sounds good.
okay?
Thank you, Leslie, for your slides again.
Yeah,
That was great.
It was
Oh, my
it was
pleasure.
Great presentation.
Yeah.
I'll take a motion to adjourn, so Gwyneth can close things up.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Deborah, first, any discussion? Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Leslie. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? No. The meeting is officially over.
Thank you.
How come nobody ever